Hi, Sportster Paul here. We're finally getting back to this 1982 Iron Sportster case. We're doing the left-hand case now with the Timken bearing. And the big long wait between the two halves needed a special tool. It's mentioned in the service manual. It is, if I can get the directions open, see how well prepared I am. It is a 94 547-80, and here's the trick, B as in boy. Because if you're like me and just there's no A or B in the service manual, the factory service manual as I was using. So I saw A on Amazon, ordered it, got this from Power Sport Superstar. Well, I didn't get this, I got the A, which is big, that's for big bikes. So the B, got over that, sent it back, they returned it, no problem. That went good, but then they say you're supposed to use, it's Jim's, which is really good stuff. You're supposed to use a handle. They sell a handle. Now this thing is like 75 bucks. That's the cheapest, 85, 90 bucks. The handle is that much. Well, oh, by the way, this is when you buy cheap. That's why I don't like these bins. I put it up there to remind me. Here's the box. They sent that one. It's a handle, you know, about this big that you put into this thing, and you're not supposed to use a hammer, but in the press that we're going to get. So that little handle, the store put it in this big box, and here's the hole in the big box where some UPS, I think, threw it across the room. It hit, and the little steel driver handle popped right through the box. And here's the problem I got. Now, Power Sport Superstar is like, oh, we're sorry. We put a claim in with UPS. It takes 7-8 days. They'll do an investigation, keep the packaging. There was a bunch of, here's the shipper, and then there was a bunch of paper in here too. And then, you know, you'll get a refund. I still don't get the darn handle that I need. Well, fortunately, this was one of those mixed blessings where I was disappointed because I interviewed a guy when I was writing for electronics magazines, Jameco. They are an electronics distributor. This guy used to be value-added like Dell, you know, he'd move Dell computers in the retail channel. He said something astonishing. He says, it's always my fault if a customer isn't happy. I said, well, it's not your fault if it gets damaged in shipping. He looked at me and said, why didn't I pack it better? Wow, talk about taking responsibility. So I'm a little irked that I got to wait 8 days, but it's a blessing because, look at this. The Harbor Freight $7 bearing pusher, well, it turns out one of their mandrels fits perfectly in this, down even to the little nut that holds the thing on. So we're going to use this, save $80. Hopefully our refund will come through. I know dealing with UPS on shipping damage is a nightmare. So that's the big deal. It was in the garbage bag. I put the garbage bag here, right, to keep dirt out of this bearing because I am going to reuse this bearing if I do. I have a new Timken to show you the theory behind it and the danger. Here's something that can burn up a bike if you're not careful. 77 and later, big engine redesign in 1977. AMF had a lot of money. They gave the money to Harley. Harley engineers did primarily a cost reduction. So in the early 76 down into the 50s, the bearing race had both tapers in it, right? And then the inner, can I pull this out? Can you see that? So it's facing two cones. How can I show you? Like this, right? In 77 later, two separate outer races, a big snap ring that snaps into the bore that holds everything, and then here's the tricky thing. See this little spacer here? Well, it didn't come across too good. There it is. You can kind of see the reflection. Maybe I can get it closer. That's all. This is machined within 10,000ths of an inch. So when it's all clamped up, this spacer goes with this bearing set, goes with this snap ring, goes with these halves, goes with these inners, right? As a unit, that's why you buy it like this. And unfortunately, they don't explode it when they call it out in the parts book. They just show it as a lump and like it's one thing. But that little inner ring, you can impact the sprocket on, the sprocket shaft, right? Put this thing, hold thing, put the flywheels in, put it together. the bike will actually go down the road without that center spacer with the bearings mashed together, and then they'll generate so much heat, turn blue, and seize up the flywheels. So you'll get that fun. So that's a little tip. So we're going to get that out. I wanted to mention the earlier ones. Let me see if I can do this real quick. 43. 43 is 24-729-74. That tells you they wanted to release this in 1974, this redesigned engine case, when the government, the American federal government, made a law that all motorcycles have to shift on the left, and older Sportsters shifted on the right. So they didn't make it. They must have had all kinds of development problems, because they cut a part number in 1974, but they didn't get this new style case released till 1977. Shows you some of the grief. But there it is, 77, 78. And then, like that parts book that I like, this one here, because it does 1954 through 78. It tries to be comprehensive, but it's not always the best. That's 77 and 78. You can go a page back, and here's the one that they show, that little spacer, because the earlier still has that center spacer. They use 2 snap rings in the earlier one, and that is number 62. I should mention HarleyKmodel.com. I'll put the link up to the literature where you can get these, maybe not this late in the 70s, but certainly into the late, I think to 1969, you can get all the parts books. Thank you, Harley Davidson, who gave permission to the owners of that site to put PDF files of all these parts books, just as important as the service manual. So what did I say? 62, 24, 729-52 bearing sprocket shaft. Now, what's interesting is they call it out the bearing spacer, which presses in after the bearing, but before the snap ring, 54 to 76, which is interesting. So that got me curious to go dig out, or we'll put this out of the way, my old original parts manuals. These are the ones that are scanned and at HarleyKmodel.com. And that's when you can see, because in the early ones they wrote the part numbers right up in the diagram itself. So the spacer that goes in, that holds the seal, that is a 24-787-52 in the 52 and 53 K model, first and second year. And then by 54, I'm not sure what they changed, it takes, I think, the same bearing, 701, yeah, but 24-781-54. So that outer spacer changed. It looks like the other stuff's the same. So that's a fun lesson. I'm not sure what to do here. A bearing puller, or I'm sorry, a seal puller, and these things are great. You think, oh, a screwdriver will work. There's just something, 100 years experience about these 2 curves that works perfect. It will damage the seal. I was thinking I might be able to get the seal, push the seal and this other race out from this side, but I don't think I can do that. I don't think that's going to work. We'll try. We'll leave the seal in for now. Meanwhile, we got this stud, which I used to leave in, but it's such a pain in the bead blaster, everywhere you're going. I leave the studs in the back on, the case studs, right, to put the other case half on. I've got my 2 nuts that I found last show, or the show where I did the other half of this. Let's see if I can get around here. How's the sky cam? Not bad. You can kind of see what's going on. If I remember right, it's a 7/8 and a 3/4. So let's get here. This time I did it more sensibly with a smaller nut on the outside of the shaft. Come on. So let's tighten this up. How do we want to do this? Maybe like this. Come down here, get them close, squeeze them really tight. I fear I'm going to have to take a pipe wrench to the smooth part of the shaft, but it's just so much nicer. Boy, these things are just moving like silk. I used the Aero Kroil down here at the base. I didn't think I got any up here, but these nuts are just moving like butter on the shaft, right? The shaft isn't moving. there are stud pullers that kind of, oh, I take it back. It's almost, this is there's Silicroil, which is a silicone thing. This is Aero Kroil. I'll put links. Oh man. Huh? You pay extra for that. And you know my thing, that's why I had the bins out. Bins to hold all the parts. A big bin for this thing. Let's get our tool off. So we'll get the two nuts apart, hopefully. Okay. So the nuts, like I said, I'll put a cable tie around them and keep them in my one little drawer of all the useful Harley tools. That is, if I remember, it's the top drawer? No. It's this drawer right here. New toolbox, so I'm still learning where everything is. It's bigger than the old one, so things got rearranged. All right, how are we doing? Not bad. This will go here. We'll get, you know, if it's got to stick around, plastic bags for all this. You know me and my cleanliness crazy. So then let's flip this over. The theory is find the stuff you just paid $80 for. Can you see there? Right. Maybe even the Skycam's better here. Right? So they're coned and they're made to go. See, it kind of snaps in. Right? They're small enough. They're all carefully machined here, little flats. So this one snaps in and pushes back. And then our 50-cent puller, when you put the center thing in, that's why it's a miracle. It's just the right size. It holds the two halves apart so that, you know, they don't close in and pop off of this bearing. Now, remember, the bearing's got to come out this way. There's a snap ring in between these two races, which means this thing is going to go together. Look at this. The nut even fits. It's perfect, like they did it on purpose. All right, sorry, Jim. Jim's machining. Okay, so we got this. It's going to go like this in the press, right? Let's get it nice and snug. You know, probably can take a hammer, but this is a big enough deal. I'm going to get the press ready. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to roll the press over here, and you can watch. Big fun. Get this one Timken out. All right, safety glasses aren't a bad idea anytime you're prying springs or doing stuff like that. I've got the press over here, tightened it, brought it down, had to jigger things down here. 2 flat plates, this is not correct. You're not supposed to put plates where the outside edge of the case. You're supposed to have like a cup that goes all the way and presses on the steel insert that's molded into the aluminum case. That's the right way to do it. I might be able to fake it with a big socket or a length of a pipe would be the right way. Let's just try, even though this, you know, you don't want to damage the case. Let's see how much force it takes. Okay, no pressure. There's a pressure gauge up here you can't quite see. Hopefully. Yep, that was just what I was hoping. One swipe and pop, that means low pressure, hopefully not springing this case, right? And let's see, is it going to fall? Oh, I guess this will hold it. That's it. And it falls all the way through because the plates have V's, and there it is with the race. So let's carefully put this down here. I was afraid of that happening. Shows you what not to do. Get these down early. Okay, so let's kind of look in here. Okay, we're back. Went and got some new plastic bags because that's definitely what you want for the race. So I can't figure out a way to, I mean, if you had just the right size thing, you could go inside that snap ring, you know, if you're trying to save this seal, if you're that cheap. because this almost always damages the seal. So let's see if I can pry this seal up. Okay, what's the mechanical advantage way? I guess this is it. Get in there. There, it's coming. Let's go around. I assume it's like a race where it's better to take it out. Let's see, up here, get underneath it, and compared to a screwdriver, this is the best tool I ever bought. So there's the seal. Seal's junk, right? I don't want to put that seal, because it's probably dirty, in here. Now, we can take the inner race, and I've already lost what I was looking for. There's this, oh, I said inner race, let me think. That's the outer race, right? This is the outside of the motor. And let's take this one. Sometimes this stuff, you actually want to keep the race with the race. So let's see, how would we do it? If we do it like this, right? I don't know if you see what I'm doing, but they won't go together. It swings around, won't go together. So that shows that this race doesn't go with this bearing. The other bearing is on the crankshaft that we pushed out, right? That's still stuck, and that's another expensive special tool. You need to go get that one. I have left that on the crankshaft and switched and swapped bearings, parts of the bearing, leave the rollers on the crankshaft, new races here. Okay, so we got a plastic bag. We wired the things together in a way that shows that this bearing does not go with this race, right? It might be important to keep them separate, although I cheat, right? When the other roller race, not the race, but the rollers, that's still attached to the flywheels, right? So that's a fun thing. The other thing I haven't seen is the spacer, right? I mean, shouldn't that spacer have come out somewhere? Well, we'll find that someplace. Be interesting if this didn't have it. Okay, so now I'm wondering if I can hammer this. One problem is there's dowels. So I got this over on the corner. Yeah, this thing fits. I might have been able to push the seal out. All right, same mistake, right? You're supposed to have a cup underneath on this iron steel part, right? Where the races press into. It's aluminum with steel molded into it, and then this race pushed into the steel. It's coming, right? I think that's it. Hopefully we haven't damaged anything. But I'll have to go look at that crankshaft because it should have, there's got to be that spacer between these two halves. I'll run and go do that. Meanwhile, this could go in a tote or... So ready for bead blast. Let's get this thing apart. And put our tool back. You know me, always working out of the toolbox. This is here? No. Here. All right. Here's our Jim's tool. Here's the race. Here's the ultra clean plastic bag. There is oil running through here, so a little bit of dirt, in theory, the oil will take care of it. So then let's see if we can do this. The theory would be, we got this one on like this. If we put this race so it actually cups in the way it's supposed to, and then wire it back, that should keep what bearings we're rolling in what race. We'll tighten that. Life is good. Into the plastic bag. Now I'm going to come back. I'm going to go look at that crankshaft we pushed out ages ago and see if that little spacer's in there. It comes in the kit because that I can see how people would get screwed up. So Let me go look at that real quick. I'll be back. All right, watch Paul screw up so you don't have to. Got the flywheel. Sure enough, it's got that spacer. Let me get the wrenches I should have put back a long time ago because this was for the stud removal process. That's good. What else? The bearing puller. I put it way down here with the pullers. And here's the flywheel. Can you see the sky cam? Can you see it over there? And it almost fell off. Here it is. This little ring. Now, because it's a gap, it's going to fall off of this thing. But at least by putting it in the bag, now it's where you know it is. Same thing. Aren't I glad I had a garbage bag around these flywheels so no dirt? But also handling it, that ring could have fallen off. And a lot of guys, you know, hey, I don't know where that is. Where does it go? And then if you wrap that flywheel in, you know, put the sprocket on the engine shaft, on the sprocket shaft, the bike will drive away. It'll start and drive away for about 6 miles, I think, last time I heard. All right, so here's our Jim's machining thing. We're happy with this. Which I guess we saved $80 by UPS will get to refund us for losing that one. So I guess I should be happy at Super Power Sports stores. Okay, so the Jim's goes in the one drawer full of special Harley tools. Now what? Get rid of this. Oh, I can tell you what I've been dreading. Oh, here's all this stuff. Here's what that Jim's came in. First class. That's kind of nice. The Dash A part, the 80A, it came in a perfect envelope. They could have dropped that straight shaft in, so they didn't quite connect it. I ordered them 2 seconds apart. I have $73.81, which is cheaper than a lot of others. What's it say here? $69.10. I guess they had to add tax. Okay, so this is the Jim stuff. Let's keep that, just like I kept some of the other Jim's instructions. This will go scanned and be in my computer. Now, what I've been avoiding, can you see? It's going to be hard to pick up. You can just see the reflections. They talk about just snapping this thing out. They do want the gap in this big, powerful snap ring to line up with this hole so that oil drains down from the inside here, right? You see this little V? Let's put it right side up for you guys. Let's see. That's the bottom of the screen. So here's it sitting in the bike, and then there's 2 little ridges here. Oil collects, drips down to this conical little depression, then it's drilled through into here, and so that's how oil gets into the rollers. And then I guess just gushes out this side. The other side has that seal on it, so engine oil doesn't go into the primary, 2 separate systems. Oh no, I remember what they said. Duh, it's in the manual. I think they said take a drift or something and go through the hole. We happen to have a full selection. Let's get the nicest, fattest. Of course, the other stuff's always in the way. Here's one. Too big. Here's one. Boy, this is mil spec. It just fits. Okay, can you see that? It's going through. This is a Craftsman 42885 USA 3/16. Wear safety goggles. Okay. Now, obviously, you're going to want to go on the end of this. Steel hammer, why not? Safety glasses. Well, it curled it down and in. Can you see? Probably not the best. I take pride on letting you be able to see what I'm doing. I think if I just keep that curl going, what happens if I pull this? It snaps right back in, of course. Okay, so perfect. Now let's get another one, a little bit bigger. This is a 42/886, 1/4 inch. And where it's kind of pushed down and curled, let's see if we can keep that going. I hate hammering on cases. Let's at least get this dowel Can you see? Barely. No, that ain't working. Like I say, you get to suffer with me. You get faster and more. Okay, so now let's go here. Or maybe just push, right? Always, why hammer when you can just push? Do remember, you got a new snap ring, so I don't like the way this thing feels. It's like it's bending. Get the other side. I don't think it'll rotate. I think it's too bound up. Okay, double. You see what I'm doing? Holding with this and positioning this. Well, it drove. I don't know if this is a smart way to do it. Ooh, I see. I nicked the corner. I wasn't careful. Hope this is the right way to get it. I'll just spiral it out like. And we'll get these out of here. 1, 2. Oh well. I think it was a piece of the punch. This is hard enough steel. Little divot there. Now let's see. This is where things can go flying. It's almost out. Can you see it's right here? Usually just pull it. There we go. All right. So that was a happy ending. Good thing I read the manual, huh? I would have never thought of punching through this hole to get this thing out. Well, it does have a little twist to it from getting hammered out. But that's, would you use it again? I don't know. Put it here. Oh, wait a minute. It's not scuffed up too bad. It does have a little permanent twist in it now, which means it was bent as I hammered it out. It would probably go in and stay. I mean, how cheap are you, right? This is that thing Duncan taught me when I gave him grief. You put new bearings in no matter what. And he said, well, a roller bearing, you can't tell. They'll be 2 minutes before failure and they'll look perfect. And then they go into service and a little bit of steel starts flaking off of the rollers because they squeeze as they go under, around pressure. Rollers last PV, they call it, pressure and velocity. The more pressure it's under, bang, higher the RPM. That defines the life of a roller, or ball, I believe, bearing. So that's that. Okay, now, what's a good camera? I guess the Sky Cam. You can see this reddish decoloration. This is that same stuff that may be bead blast off, but it may not. Here's some more of that red stuff. Oh, here's a big chunk of that red stuff, right? Here's more of this red stuff. What's it doing up here? The case halves must not match, right? This side must be bigger than the other. So you got to get all this off. The bead blaster isn't a sandblaster, right? It also, with all the oil film that you can feel on this, including the Aero Kroil that I sprayed on. Man, I love Kroil. The way that stud came out, I'm tempted to take these out, but let's not go crazy. Okay, what else did I want to say? Casting numbers are different than part numbers. You can see this 24534-81, meaning it was cast, meaning that part number was cut, was released in 1981 in preparation for the 82 model year. This isn't the number of the part. The part's been machined and it's second operations. This is the number of the casting. That's what's molded in. The part number, well, there's case half numbers here. I didn't even know about those. So this might be the particular mold it was in or the foundry. This is a date stamp, 6/2/81. Although it did have this hole drilled through it. Oh, I see. There's a drain hole. So there's a feed hole up here, and down here there's a drain hole. And they've got these difficult drills, kind of at an angle to go through feed this thing. So, but that was the trick. When you put that snap ring in, make sure the open part is up so the oil can get in there and then do its thing, get around. All right, I'm going to go wash it, the normal stuff. I got a parts washer finally because the pump in my old parts washer, this red thing, gave up the ghost from junk hardening in it in the move from California to Florida. So I bought a new one. It's cheesy, and of course, it's only when you get it, there's big stickers, only aqueous solution. Well, hopefully it won't burst into flame. I've got that part solvent, like Safety Clean, same principle. So I'll get that in here first to get it clean, and then scraping, and I'll just come back and tell you what I had to scrape and do to get it. I'll take pictures as I go. I can flash the pictures up if you don't believe me. And then we'll do some before pictures and after pictures. No zippers, as they call welds repairs. No zippers in this case. Looks like a pretty good case. So we'll be back after I clean it, and probably I'll just bead blast it, right? It's still early, you can see. Finally, I'm getting on ahead of the game here. All right, back in a flash. All right, back from the parts washer. That cheap Chinese parts washer I got on Amazon is a little lacking. In addition to saying only aqueous, which ain't gonna happen. The lid doesn't open all the way, and it's not like the old Vulcan one I had that had like a prop rod that if it caught fire, it would close. I don't think this CRC part solvent is flammable at any reasonable, like you could drop a match in it, right? I don't think it boils, but you never know if it's hot enough. So anyway, before bead blasting, I thought to bring it out to show you just how good it looks with that wash down with parts solvent. And the reason I bought this blue thing from Amazon, this parts washer, 3-gallon, I'll put my buddy's affiliate links down in the bottom if you need it. It had the brush, where the fluid gets pumped through the brush. Now it's kind of Mickey Mouse, the brush just pulls off of the gooseneck, and that needs a hose clamp, but it went pretty good. Let me go over the pictures I just took. So here it is in the parts washer. This is where you have to be so careful. You don't clang the gasket surfaces onto this edge of something sharp. This parts washer is pretty good. It's got a big wide rolled edge. If I could get that damn lid sawed off, the hinge, it's all riveted together, or shit. If I can get that sawed off and pushed back out of the way, it'll be even easier to manipulate. But here it is, you know, with the brush, getting washed. Let's see, next picture. There's the CRC, expensive, $120 I think at the auto parts store. But when you see how good it does, it's just like magic. As you work that brush around, the brush and the stuff together. Then for that red stuff that was on this side, there's a little bit, I don't know if you can see it. You know, there's a tiny little trace of it. See this? So it still needs maybe a razor blade and some cleaning up. But I use steel wool. It's more aggressive than Scotch-Brite, but it doesn't seem, you know, there's still the machining marks. It doesn't even look like it scratched it. What I like about steel wool, look, another little piece of that silicone, and another piece. Always inspect. Here's a, can you see it right there? The reason I like the steel wool is that it still leaves a nice surface, but it's aggressive enough. It'll go through silicone. And people silicone it. Some people use red RTV to join their case halves together. So there's me in the steel wool. Then once it's done in the parts solvent, that's why I think it's kerosene mixed with soap, you know, or detergent of some kind. Drain it, get it over to the sink. And when you think about it, it's the clean water coming out of your sink that's really getting rid of a lot of little particles and junk, right? So there's the Scotch-Brite that I did go over stuff with Scotch-Brite. And then the little hot water, right? Then the little spray thing in the kitchen sink. I don't have my parts washer sink all set up yet. And over to the air compressor, my old Craftsman 2-stage. Blow it all out and get it dry, which is key because you can't have any moisture in that bead blaster. The beads will stick. And then the secret I've been doing, that's some, is it brake clean? Or I think it's carb cleaner. Berryman's carb cleaner, my favorite brand. All the blind holes I filled with that stuff. So if there's oil residue in there, you don't want the beads sticking and staying in all the threaded holes, ruining that stuff. So all the blind holes on both sides, I put some of this carb cleaner, then took the air blow off while it's still full, and blew it off, and probably should have worn a respirator. At least I have my cool guy gloves on. And then we're back to the beginning. Okay, So I wanted to show you this going. Look at that. See, so there's still stuff here, but here's the bead blast one with the nice silvery perfect finish. You know, this isn't the worst thing in the world. It's obviously worse. There, maybe you can see here where this is dark. You know, it's got that aluminum oxide where this is just uniformly silvery. So what did I want to show you? Right here, right? I noticed that it didn't clean up. I wasn't careful enough. So this has all got to be gone through again. A lot of times this gooey sealant stuff, the bead blaster will not take it off. Sometimes. But you shouldn't have it bead blasting so hard that it's an abrasive, right? This is just supposed to prepare the surface and blast the surface. Careful as I was. See, and this is throwing stuff around, throwing this case and this, you know, in a big bin. That's where everybody dents up the gasket surfaces and complains that they're hardly leaks, right? So you got to be really careful. And as careful as I was, oh, I guess that's just a little inclusion. That's a little bubble. There was, I thought a dent here from as careful as I was. Apparently I was careful enough. See, here's a little more of that red stuff. I don't know if you can get it out. Get it out real time. Scraping it. This is the problem, you know, gasket scrapers are a little bit duller. And, you know, from the last half, from this half over here, I can tell you that the bead blaster will not take this stuff out. So I'm going to go through, you know, touch this stuff up. It's almost ready for the blast. How do these work? I used to remember like that. Let's see, and like I say, a razor is dangerous because it'll dig into that aluminum. But let's see if I can get here. I don't know if you can see on the Scotty cam, just barely. Oh, it's coming up. There it is. Can you see that little yellowish stuff? That's where, you know, I mean, it's nice that the outside is all pretty and shiny, but that's not where you want to spend, the professional spends his attention. It's all the mating surfaces, right? So I'll go through this, make sure then into the bead blaster, come back, it should look as good as this one. And notice that this one is in its own little garbage bag, all right? So, back in a flash. All right, back, I took my advice from the first show, and rather than walk from the garage with the bead blaster and the beads all over me and in my hair falling all over where I assemble stuff, went and took a shower, fresh clothes. So, you know, watch contamination from one area to the other. This dowels I leave in unless, like this one right here, oops, Skycam, there it is. Right here, it kind of just fell out with the air. So that gets put in a little parts bag. Came out beautiful. As diligent as I was about that red stuff, I found some, here's some, right? Not that critical to get it off. Here, a little right there. So, like I say, you don't want to be like a shop that's like, oh, let's make it shiny where the customer sees it and heck with the gaskets, right? That's not your thinking. Your thinking is, I want these gasket surfaces to be perfect. More red stuff. Look at this. I should do the inspection before I turn on the camera, huh? Look at that big chunk of this red junk. So a little more inspection. What's this here? Is this a low spot? No, that was a little bit. But it looks pretty good. I don't know if we can real quick. This is the plastic bag I bought to store it. Oh, look, I can see some of that red stuff still has to come off. But for the most part, let's go over the bead blast job. I got my little camera here to show the pictures. I went in the garage. This is a homemade bead blaster, right? Plastic panels with aluminum corners, aluminum angle iron corners. construction adhesive holding it all together, a wooden frame with window screen, metal window screen if I remember. Or no, maybe, no, it's plastic because I didn't want to scratch this up. Screws on the side holding the screen, so nothing sharp. It's just big enough to fit these an engine case half. The stuff I got from Summit Air in San Jose, not anything to do with Summit Racing, different outfit. I don't even know if they're in business anymore. I got the gloves there, I got the gun there. It's got a slant to it where the beads fall down into a corner, and I got a little copper pipe that I stick down. And it died on me. Let me go back a little and see where we were. Okay, so next picture. This is the California Air Tools 2 horsepower air compressor that just keeps up with the gun. And I made sure I put a small nozzle in the gun because a big nozzle is a big hole and you need 80 CFM of air, right? So this is little 2 horsepower, just barely keeps up. Then the important thing, because if you start bead blasting and it's like you're chasing these gray squigglies, that's water has gotten in your air supply. I haven't hooked up the refrigerated air dryer, but this thing is like a big radiator meant to cool air, so then the water gets out of it. There's a little trap in the bottom right, you can see, little water trap that the water, as the air cools, the water condenses out of it, ends up in the trap. So that keeps the bead blasting looking good. Then here it is inside the bead blaster. You can see beads, white beads in corners and crevices and a bit of the gun there. There's another shot of the gun and the beads. It was in there a while because I went to these number 10 fine beads. So they don't cut, they don't do, they leave a real satiny finish, a little bit shinier than coarser beads. Here it is sitting on my kitchen counter. There it is, another one on the end shot on the kitchen counter. So we're back to here. And so, I don't know, we can take one right here. It looks pretty good. And, as long as the gasket surfaces, especially the gasket surface in the case halves, right? Because that's when you're never going to have a chance. Once you put the wheels in it and put it together, that's it for last bit. So I wanted to mention, let's see, which half did we do? Okay, we did this half. If I can get it apart. There we go. Like I say, I don't mess with the dowels, especially the case half dowels. These steel ones, leave them in. If you get pliers and try to get them out, all you're going to do is scuff them up and the case won't go together right. These are fine to leave in. And then the dowels over on this side, there's 3 now. There used to be just one nose and tail. Now there's one down in the bottom. Not sure why. But, and this is, I don't know, you won't be able to see it. Maybe I can show you with this camera. There's this huge gouge here that I sure don't think I put in this last session. Like I say, don't be throwing stuff in buckets and letting edges hit things. That's what dents it. So right here, maybe we do it real time, right? If I could remember. Maybe a real fine. I got to buy new files. You can take a file. I just started touching the far edge, but I think I got yeah. Let's take another picture. So between that, for this gouge is on the outside edge, it should still seal. And this is where I've had bad ones. I've taken JB Weld, mixed it up, and puttied in the JB Weld and smoothed it over, rather than silicone. Keep silicone away from your Sportster, right? That silicone falls in and gets into a roller bearing, that's it. The motor is, burnt up. The little piece of silicone won't crush like sand. It'll skate that bearing, turn it blue, melt it, seize the motor at speed. Nothing good comes of it, right? So no silicone. For a while, I used that copper spray, or there's some Permatex stuff in a spray can, and that's about the only thing that puts it on light enough. And then the same thing here on the inside. You know, people, big bead, don't do that. You saw the little pieces of red stuff all over this thing. Look, there's a little there. It's not too bad when it's on the outside. Who cares, right? It's just ugly. But when it's on the inside, it falls, gets down into the oil pump, snaps the oil pump drive shaft. You know, bad things happen. So, like, I like Yamabond 4 because it's more flexible. You know, it's non-hardening. So by non-hardening, I figure that's not going to snap off and get in somewhere. And it's really just a film. I mean, I get it on my fingers. Maybe I should start wearing gloves. Everywhere I see that red Gliptol stuff, more of it. All right. So, you know, it's just like the thinnest thing, because these case halves are close, right? And when you bolt them up, they're really close. They just need the slightest bit of material in there to do the sealing. So that's, now let me think. This is the left hand. Yeah, we did the right hand a couple weeks ago. We got our tool from Jim's Tool. Thank you, Jim's Machining. And we got the Timken out of it. Like I say, I don't know about reusing that stuff. I bend it up bad enough. It does look like, I just had it wrong. I did it backwards and, you know, brain fart. So it looks like you actually could push the seal and the outer Timken out as one. But that snap ring came out bent enough that would make me think, I'm sure there's $50, $60 for that Timken bearing, but maybe it's just smart. If you get down this far, you know, if you do have to get the case completely stripped, buy a new one. Up to you. Anyway, Sportster Paul, have fun. Good luck with your Sportster projects. I will see you all next time.